Hey everyone, welcome to this C# tutorial. This lesson is about an introduction to the console, and we are going to start writing our first program. I am using Visual Studio 2019 for this series, but you can use whatever version you want. If you don't have Visual Studio installed, there are plenty of good YouTube videos that can guide you through the process. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to create a C# program in Visual Studio. The basic structure of a C# program, learn how to read and write to the console, store information, adding comments to a program, 2 ways to represent data, concatenation and string interpolation, and how to save your C# program. Okay, so as mentioned today, we're starting with the absolute basics, how to write text to the console and how to read inputs from the user. This is essentially the foundation of almost every program you'll ever write. Let's get started by opening Visual Studio. This is the default screen that appears when you open the application. It might be slightly different if you are using a different version. You can see your most recent projects on the left-hand side, but as we are starting a new program, we are going to select Create a New Project on the right-hand side. You can now select the type of application you want, such as a web application or Windows form. You can see here that you can choose from multiple programming languages depending on what you install with Visual Studio, but we are going to stick with the C# options. We are going to select the C# console app for this exercise. You now need to give your project a name. I'm going to call this Introduction to Console. Then we select the location where we want the project to be saved. We can then press Create to build our application. You can see here that Visual Studio has built our application for us. A C# application consists of a number of core elements. A C# application lives inside a project. We can see the project view on the right-hand side. The project contains the .cs source code files, the configuration files, dependencies, and other important files that make up a C# project. The namespace is like a folder for your code. They help organize classes and prevent naming conflicts. C# is an object-oriented language, so everything lives inside a class. For now, you just need to know that the class is located inside the namespace. We will discuss these terms in more detail as we progress through the tutorial series. Every C# application needs an entry point, the place where the program starts running. This is where the main method comes in, and it traditionally looks like this. The term static means it belongs to the class, not an object. The void means it doesn't return a value. The term main means that this is the method the application looks for when we start the program. You can have lots of methods in a program, but you will have only one main method to start the execution of your program. The args are optional command line arguments. We are going to ignore these for now. You can see that the application automatically generates code for you, console.writeLine. Hello world, this is the type of code we are going to learn in this lesson, and it simply prints the term hello world on the console. Notice that the term hello world is inside double quotations. This means that it is a string or a type of text. If you look at the top of your program, you will see the directives being used in the program. You can add the required directives by typing using followed by the directive you want to use. For now, we only need to use system. The directives bring namespaces into scope so you can use their classes without typing the full name. This basically allows us to write console.writeLine instead of writing system.console.writeLine. If we want to run our application, we can press debug. Start without debugging. We can also press Control F5 to run the program. You can see from the window on the bottom of the screen that the program is being built. This is also where you will see any errors in your code. This black screen is the console, and you can see that the words hello world were printed. This shows us that typing console.writeLine will print whatever is inside the brackets into the console. If we close the console and modify our code to just say hello. We are also going to add another console.writeLine with the word world in it. We can then run this program. Again, you can see that the console printed hello world, but this time each word is on a different line. This is because the write line command prints the text and then moves on to a new line. We can close the console and replace the write line commands with write commands and rerun the application to see what happened. As you can see, hello world is printed on one line again. This is because the write command doesn't move to a new line after the command is executed. You might also notice there's no space between the two words. We can close the console. If we want to print the same command with a space between the two words, we can either add a space after the first word or before the second word. We can then run the program again. As you can see, we now have the space between the two words again. We can store different types of data in variables. For example, we can type string name equals Alice with Alice in brackets and a semicolon at the end. This stores the word Alice in a string variable called name. We can do the same for an integer value by typing int age equals 25 with a semicolon at the end. You can see that the 25 doesn't have brackets around the number while Alice does. This is because Alice is a string while 25 is an integer value. We will talk about variables in more detail in the next lesson. We can now write console.writeLine again. And if we put the following code inside the brackets to see what happens. As you can see, we printed the text name with a colon and space as it appears in our code. This is because this is the string we entered inside the brackets, so it will appear as written. If we add a plus sign, it allows us to add a second element to the console.writeLine command. And in this example, we are adding the variable name that we declared above. As the word Alice is stored in the name variable, the word Alice is displayed. This method to display variables is called concatenation. We can remove the plus and variable command and put the variable with curly brackets inside the string quotations. You can see that the variable looks like the rest of the string command. We need to add a $sign in front of the opening quotation. This allows the program to know we want to use the special characters, which are our curly brackets. The program then knows to use these characters correctly. This method for displaying variables is called string interpolation. This is the preferred modern style and is considered easier to read. I am only going to add the $sign to one of the lines, so you can see the difference. As you can see, the line without the $sign prints the string exactly as it was written, while the line with the $sign, you'd interpret the curly brackets, has special characters, and display the variable inside it. If we add the $sign to the other line, the program should then display both variables. As you can see, both the name and age are displayed this time. To read the input that the user types, we use the command console.readLine with two brackets and a semicolon. This command waits for the user to type something and press enter. If we use the command console.write to ask the user what their name is, we can then declare a variable like we did previously. In this case, we will use string user equals console.readLine with two brackets and a semicolon. This will store the value that the user is prompted to type in a string variable called user. We can then use the console.writeLine command to respond and display the name that the user has inputted. When we run the program, we are prompted to type a name. If we type Alice and press enter, the readline command executes and sends the variable Alice to the next writeline command, which in turn displays the result. We can add comments to our program to make it easier to read and understand what the code is doing. This is important in larger programs and makes it easier for other programmers to understand your code. Comments are ignored. When your program runs, we can use 2 forward slashes to enter a comment on a single line. We can write a comment saying, this is how to read and write to the console. If we run the program now, it will execute the exact same way as before, ignoring the comments we added. If we want to save our program, we can press File and then save the program or save all, depending on what changes have been made. You can also do a save as if you want to save a copy of the program to a different location. Congratulations on completing this lesson. You have learned the basic structure of a C# program, how to read and write to the console and use variables. In the next lesson, we are going to learn about the different kinds of built-in types or data types in C#. If you enjoyed this lesson, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next lesson.